the other night with my son. I'm like, what
That's always how it goes.
doing?
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of DSO Secrets. I'm your fearless host, Emmet Scott. And today I'm so excited about my guest because we have been talking a ton on our Facebook site. We have been Facebook messaging each other, and now is like our first time live to chat, and we're going to do it right here in a podcast. So we have Sarah Varney and Christine Deal, co-founders and CEOs of DSO Hygiene Excellence. So thank you both for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Emmet.
Yeah, so I want to hear the background of this. Obviously, to come out to take DSO, put it with hygiene, I'm like, okay, these are bold entrepreneurs. They clearly have a mission. They're clearly trying to bridge a gap here. And so tell me a little bit about how this got started and became DSO Hygiene Excellence.
So we, Christine and I worked together for about 30 years in the same practice. So we're both working as full-time, clinical dental hygienists. Our office was purchased by a DSO 4 years ago. So it was our first foray into the DSO world. And we were a little trepidatious, but as we got in and got our feet wet, it's fantastic. It's a model that we love. We're very excited and passionate about the DSO model and the opportunities that exist in that moving forward for everybody.
Can I ask you, what was it that in that transition, I love your vulnerability, right? Because it's like any kind of change, we're all going to be concerned about.
Very
what
different.
was it that you go, oh, wait, this is going to be better, not worse?
Well, I really think it's the leadership. The leadership in the organization was very open to hear any of our concerns, to explain to us how this was going to go, and had an open door policy. And that's kind of where we kind of went off and did a little project and started to do some things. And it was really great because we were very supported in the leadership.
Yeah.
Well, good, because the S in DSO is supposed to be supported. So
yeah. And for me, it was maybe losing autonomy. We've been in our practice for a long time. We believe in the services we provide, our commitment to excellence in patient care and always growing and evolving in new technologies and being able to maintain that level of excellence that we've always had. So I wasn't sure, coming in, you do hear bad things about DSOs. We have probably 1,200 hygienists on our Facebook site right now. And we get a lot of personal texts like, was a DSO and I heard it's bad, and isn't it bad?
And corporate dentistry.
Yeah, and we do a lot of change management just from this perspective of what is the reputation of a DSO. And we tell them very honestly that it's amazing, and you really can still have all the autonomy you want. You can be a leader in your practice, that your DSO will appreciate you stepping up, right? And wanting to help form what that practice looks like with your doctor and in aligning with the corporate vision, right? And branding and your business model, and they're all a little different, but that it's an exciting space to be in. I'm very supportive.
I just want to stay on this for just a second because this autonomy thing is a big deal. And, one of the arguments that I've put out there, and I'm curious your feedback on it, is that autonomy can actually increase dramatically with the right DSO support. Because if I have to figure out and manage, especially for a single doc who's trying to figure out their technology's not working, they're making sure payroll gets done, front desk, somebody quit, they've got to make sure they're doing that. That's a lot going on in the brain while I'm also trying to do clinical work. But if I have someone I trust who's providing that support, my autonomy can actually go up where I can focus on the clinical excellence. I'm curious if your experience was similar and where I'm right on that and maybe where I'm wrong.
I think you're absolutely right on that, actually. And it's been very true for us. We've always kept a lot of metrics in our office. I have Excel sheets going back 15 years probably, but I think you're right. When you have to how do we handle the Facebook page and the marketing, even for the hygiene department, how do we increase referrals? How do we market new patients? How do we market our laser services or our Invisalign, or how do we do some of those other support center things? We were wearing a lot of hats, and now that's off of our table, right? And look what we've done. So we started this really organization for hygienists, not having to worry about tracking all those other things that we were wearing the hats for. So you're right.
Did it feel a little bit unnerving? Because sometimes there's that need to be needed too, where it's like, hey, yes, I am managing the chaos. Yes, I don't love doing all of it, but there's a little job security in knowing that I'm managing the chaos. So as organization systemization comes in, you guys kind of went to a higher and better use. Was there a transition period in that though, where it was a little bit scary?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll say yes. You do the control, losing the control.
Yes.
And, like, we handled our recare, we had it down, we knew the numbers, we were in charge of how recall ran, and then they came in and this is how we do recall, and you're like,
Yeah, there were different systems. Obviously, we had been used to certain systems, and then getting used to new systems was a little bit challenging for some of them.
There was business change management. There was really like no different than if I brought in a consultant and they said, hey, you could actually do scheduling this way and it would improve patient flow, et cetera.
Right.
Yes, you want the improvement, but there's always like a little bit of like, that was my baby, right?
Yeah.
And so every DSO is a little bit different on that, but it sounds like they had some process oriented things that.
And I would say to everybody, trust your decision. You chose that DSO because you were value aligned, right? So you trusted them, your doctor chose them, trust that that is a good match, that your values have already lined up. So then let the rest of the changes just roll. Like, accept it. It's going to be as good as you were doing it, I promise, if not better. And understand then that, to your point, it frees you up then to focus on patient care. And how can you elevate patient care? How can you elevate yourself professionally? And we didn't have a lot of time to do a lot of professional development when you're managing all those other hats.
Right.
So,
interesting.
Right?
So actually your ability to focus on the clinical is going up.
Right.
I'm curious, and I'm going to hit you with a hard one here, but did you have any business people coming in and saying, you got to do this much clinical work, and if you don't, then you're out of here type thing? Did you see any quotas, right? All the things you hear, and I'm sure this is what you get the text messaging on,
No, we didn't have any of that.
And honestly, if we did anything, Christy and I realized pretty quickly into our DSO experience that there's a huge untapped power in the DSO space that we felt was unharnessed. And for us, we realized we had 30 offices and 100 hygienists. And we realized a little bit into it, like, we don't really know them. Like, we wonder what they're doing. What are they saying to patients? What things are they really good at? And so we were lucky within our DSO that we were given the autonomy to collaborate with other hygienists. We honestly said to our CEO, like, can we form a group, like a peer-to-peer collaboration group? Because we feel like that's the huge benefit of a DSO, that you're not a private practice, one person in an office.
Right.
You have
you don't have to have all the answers.
Yeah, you have a community where you can share best practices and what are you doing in that space. And if you don't know how to do something, if you're doing something great, people can share it. And we didn't know any of the hygienists. Even a DSO, you can still be one person in an office by yourself.
Right.
So why not
tap
everybody
into
together,
that whole
right?
community?
Yeah, brilliant. And now, is this what started the beginning of DSO Hygiene Excellence?
Yeah, I think it was the seed, right?
Yeah.
So that was the seed. We did create a Facebook page, and so we would have, weekly calls. We would drop different. Christina just ran a lot of content through it on things we wanted to push. Maybe it was Oral Cancer Awareness Month or on laser. So we would drop free CEs, and we would have a call. People could jump on and chat about what you liked, or if you're doing something great on this topic, throw an article in, share something, right? So just that collaboration, super powerful. And that's the power of a DSO. In the hygiene space, I think is untapped.
Do you think it's interesting, because most people think of business as being very competitive, but what you're describing is very collaborative?
Yeah.
Right.
And do you think that you actually got more collaboration? I guess by the nature that you now have a way to even collaborate, right? When you're by yourself, it's just harder to call up the guy across the street and say, hey, hygienist, can we all get together and share best practices? It feels clunky, but you're actually taking kind of that model and you are bringing that to the people across the street. I mean, DSO Hygiene Excellence really is bigger than just any individual DSO, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm a graduate student at Notre Dame right now. I'm getting my MBA, and one of my classes last semester was marketing the firm. So I had to do a growth strategy project, and I did it on this peer-to-peer collaboration group, but we had to do some laddering and research and surveys. And at the end of that, my professor said to me, you understand that you have a great responsibility here. What you developed is amazing. It doesn't exist. And you have a responsibility to pivot it nationally, especially we're in the midst of COVID, right? So there's a lot of uncertainty and anxiety and what's going on in DSOs. And we're on some of the social media sites with hygienists that are not knowing. And I was like, okay, he's right.
Yeah,
So-
that's cool. So you felt the mission, you felt the alignment with entrepreneurship and your mission. And then, it was kind of the universe saying, move forward, because you actually had DSO support that gave you the freedom to do something like this, right?
Right.
Yeah,
It's nice to bring to everybody nationally what we experienced in our own DSO.
Would you say that's the overall mission, or, what is kind of the vision of DSO Hygiene Excellence?
Well, I think the vision, we really want to elevate the profession of dental hygiene, and we want to do that not only professionally but personally, so people really have a good foundation, and they can be leaders in their offices.
Yeah, it's interesting, Christine, because when you're an individual office and you say, hey, we really want to have excellence, but you have no collaborative capability, how are you defining excellence? Is it off your schooling that happened, in the past? Is it off of a CE credit that you have? I mean, to really pressure test excellence, you have to get in the same room with a bunch of great, excellent people, right? And then you build on each other. Is that kind of the vision that you're doing here? Or is it different?
Yeah, and it's a little bit of a wider net that's cast with that. I mean, we do plan to and want to elevate the profession of dental hygiene. And I think what dental hygiene looks like in the DSO space is a little bit undefined right now, right? Like I'm hearing a bunch of different kind of models coming up as offices are going from, emerging offices are growing and scaling 2 offices to 5 offices to 10 offices. How are they developing on hygiene? Are they writing protocols for their hygiene departments? It seems to be a little scattered and kind of all over the place. So DSO Hygiene Excellence is there to standardize that, to say this is what excellence is in the DSO space. And it's truly the elevation of hygiene. We want to take the profession elevated for where our needs are now and for where we see them going to be in the future. And it's really offering a skill set that you didn't get in hygiene school. To when you come out of hygiene school, you did learn how to do your job as a hygienist, but now in the DSO space, especially since it's a little decentralized for most people and your CEO is not in the building with you. I mean, your doctor is obviously a leader in the practice and hopefully he has a lot of autonomy, but you do also, as a co-producer in the office, can co-lead, right, with your doctor, and again, in line with your corporate vision. But I think to train hygienists with some basic certifications to be able to step up, come to the table with a skill set beyond what they learned at school. That's the true elevation, right? To be able to come in with a certification in leadership, to be able to come in with a certification in teamwork and diplomacy, to be able to come in with a certification in dental medical synergy and how that looks now and moving forward, right? To come in with a certification in what is business excellence. We've, earmarked like 5 KPIs that to us speak to, is your hygiene department profitable? If you're going to own that space and you want to be recognized as a leader and a business leader within DSO, then you need to understand some basic, right, like business performance metrics. And then we have 6 key points or metrics that are clinical excellence. So to come in certified with that skill set, and that's the elevation, right?
And that would be our 5 pillars of excellence of our diplomat program.
So
that's awesome. I love where you're going, because I think there's an interesting conversation that's not happening just in dentistry, but happening globally, which is, what is the role of education? It used to be kind of the repository of all things of knowledge. You would go in there, you would extract it, you would get your degree, and you'd say, I now know everything that's to be known, to some degree. Obviously, with the internet, with the evolution of information going so quickly, and with the demand of customers being so intense and what they want, now we walk out of school, I don't care what degree, what profession, you say, okay, I have a starting point. Now I got to get
right.
Right. Now I got to learn all these other things to keep up with the customer, because I've got freaking Amazon always creating more and more entitlement in all of us, right? And
Yeah.
so I've got to start running and saying, okay, how am I going to connect better? How am I going to be better? And by the way, I also have to move with all the clinical technology and learning that's happening as well. Well, am I going to just kind of keep rotating through the school system? No, that doesn't work for any profession. You've got to have some way that you're continuing to grow and learn, especially when you start getting 5, 10, 15, 20 years out.
Right.
If you're still relying on what you got and a few CE
That's
credits
awesome.
here and there, you're
No.
just not going to be able to keep up, right?
No.
And again, this isn't about dentistry. This is about knowledge and learning generally. You guys have really found a mission to say, okay, well, hygienists are also people that have to keep up with learning too. And how do we create a career path that sounds like a learning path, a knowledge path,
Right.
that isn't like segmented off by I'm sitting in one practice and that's all I'm, so many hygienists reach out to me and they're like, I've hit my ceiling. Like I need more. And there's just, they've got the
Want more
hunger,
growth
they've
and fulfillment.
consumed everything they can and it's just not available. Right.
Yeah, and that was part of it for us too. And we looked at some DSOs and kind of their, I guess, recruitment, just sort of, just to be bold and honest. And, I read things about professional development and I'm wondering, what are you offering them? Like, what are you
Right.
truly offering? It's a great recruitment tool to say we're going to offer you professional development, but what is that? How are you developing beyond what they learned in school? So I think this is a nice recruitment tool to say to the hygienist, we're going to hire you and we're going to train you to become a DSO Hygiene Excellence diplomat. You're going to become certified in leadership and teamwork. And, those are lifelong endeavors. There's no ceiling on that, right? And the medical dental synergy is just taking off now. I think we've only touched the iceberg of where that's going. You'll spend your whole career getting the medical dental synergy down for sure, right?
Yes.
And the business KPIs and the clinical excellence KPIs. I mean, those are things that you'll never hit a ceiling on. And you're right, you'll become initially certified, but obviously this organization is going to continue to enrich all those 5 pillars with content moving forward.
Well, I'm passionate that the entrepreneurs in the dentistry space need to be supported. And I love what you all are doing. And I think, the other thing I'm passionate about is dentistry's got to be elevated. It feels like we not only need to take our place at the table for healthcare, we need to take our place at the head of the table. I mean, we're seeing the public more than any other healthcare provider I know. Primary care has completely collapsed. That's why we have all these ER pop-ups going on, around. And frankly, as the dentist, hygienist, we're the medical providers that are seeing the public more than anyone else, right? So we should be at the head of the table, and oftentimes we're sitting on the ground eating with the dogs.
Yeah.
And they trust us, right?
Yeah.
We have great relationships.
And they tell us way more, I think, than they tell their doctors.
Oh yeah.
What counsel would you give? I think this is a good point. What counsel would you be giving to hygienists right now that you see them where they're kind of playing below their potential, below their capability? I'm big on, as humans, we should always be moving ourselves to our highest and best use. I think within the healthcare field, we use terms like playing at the top of your license or providing services at the top of your license. But you guys are talking about something much broader than even clinical excellence. You're also talking about leadership development excellence as well, right?
Yeah.
So as you think about that with hygienists, where do you feel like, if you were just kind of generally stereotyped, where do you feel like we go next as hygienists?
Yeah, I do think it's a creation of choosing to elevate. I mean, I really feel like DSO Hygiene Excellence is an organization, and I would hope that every hygienist who cares about the profession and the patients and elevating our profession wants to become a member of this organization. That we band together, that we step up. This is a national call to action. It is saving our profession. It is elevating our profession for our patients, for our practices. I mean, it's that commitment, kind of just next level. You learn the skills. I mean, really, hygiene school, it's great, but you did just learn the skills. You didn't really learn how to take it into your community then, and to be a pillar in your community and a beacon in your community, for your practices, in your business, for your profession. It is just next level.
Well, and I do think too, we definitely have to work more with physicians like cardiologists and endocrinologists and all those things, because there's so many patients who, aren't getting dental care that are seeing their cardiologists on a regular basis. And I'm really surprised that cardiologists aren't saying, you need to see your dentist. And I really hope they all are. But I'm not sure that we have that communication with those types of practices where we really should develop those relationships with those doctors.
Mhm.
It's interesting because, I can tell you guys are very entrepreneur, forward thinkers, future thinkers. You've latched on to DSO the same way I have, less about some kind of, business structure, LLC structure, whatever it might be, and more about dental support organization, this mindset of the future. And that's how I've thought about it too. I'm standing in the business role, so I always say I'm second fiddle. My job is to help elevate from the bottom up. I can never go faster than what the clinical vision is, but that's how I think of dental support organization. It sounds like, as you guys are talking, this isn't about if you're a hygienist in a DSO, come join us. It's more of if you're a hygienist who's ready for the future, come join us.
Mhm.
Yes.
Right? If you're a hygienist that's tired of playing at a lower level, come join us.
Mhm.
If you feel like everything that you learned in school wasn't everything to be learned, come join us,
Yeah.
right? Is
You're
that,
right.
am I hearing this correctly?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly
Yes.
right.
Yes.
I
It's
think,
more about the excellence part than anything else.
Yeah.
It's, the DSO is where the future is going from a support perspective.
Mhm.
And so
Correct.
you're leveraging off of that, saying, not only should we be getting support from the business side, we should be supporting each other to
Yeah.
get
Yes.
to the next level.
It's again harnessing that power, right, of being in the DSO space.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah,
common
the difference between just general light, right, and a laser is all about focus, right? Harnessing that power.
Yeah, and you're right. And I think there's hygienists that I think a lot of hygienists are hungry to elevate. We see them going into selling other products, trying to consult, going into a lot of different spaces. And, I think there's to create a space clinically where we can, again, do true professional development and personal development, where we can keep those hygienists clinical and not have them walking away from clinical, especially with COVID. That was, it honestly was part of it. We saw people not coming back to clinical hygiene, and I was concerned. I'm like, our patients need us. We have so many patients, that aren't even getting care in the US. What is it? 35% of people go to the go to the hygienist or the dentist. So what happens when we rally to 70%? Who's going to see all those patients? We have hygienists walking out of the clinical care. Right. So we need to give them a space in clinical to elevate. So we keep those excellent hygienists in clinical.
Well, and I'm curious your thoughts on this. I think part of the reason that we saw so many walk away, so many frustrated, is we didn't include them in the conversation. And when I say we, I'm using a very big royal we, that I think that the clinician side, the dentist side, walk through many times. I talked to DSOs who were humble about this. Their clinical teams got together and they didn't include the hygienists. Others nailed it. They included everyone. They included hygienists, RDAs, all the way up and down, said, we've got to build a plan. I think when you build a plan together, you understand the plan, right? And you execute the plan together. And it seems like those who made the biggest mistakes, frankly, oftentimes at the individual practice level, dentists kind of made a unilateral decision. It wasn't as collaborative, and said, listen, you didn't let me keep up with like where this decision tree is going. I need to opt out. I'm still going through kind of the fear process here. And you didn't bring me along with you. Did you see that, or was there something else going on?
I think you're exactly right. I kind of have a story. I have two other girlfriends who are hygienists, and one works here in Illinois, and then the other works in California. And throughout that time, one of their doctors, the one in Illinois, he was talking to them weekly. So they had a weekly Zoom call. And so he would keep them abreast of what was happening. My other girlfriend in California, nobody called her. Nobody talked to her. She's 3 weeks in. She's like, I haven't heard from anyone. Mm-hmm. And now we were so fortunate because in our DSO, our leader, he called us every single morning at 8:00. We had a group call, and that was Monday through Friday. And he let us know where he was with the PPE and that he was getting everything. We were going to be safe. And don't worry, he had it under control. I mean, he said and did all the right things.
Ask him questions
And
text him your fears.
yeah, and he was
He
so
probably sometimes said too, holy smokes, I don't know what's going on, right?
sure.
You know, I don't have a solution. I'll let you know when I do.
Right.
What's your
But
guys'
that's important too. You know, that's important too, to share that, like that you don't know. And I think unfortunately, you know, like you said, I think that's why a lot of them walked away. Now, I'm not sure, but I think that's what it is. It's didn't have a seat at the table.
Yeah.
Do you think this is kind of that deeper issue that's been not addressed for a long time, and then the stress of COVID just kind of exacerbated the problem, which is that misalignment, right? And what you probably saw was those who've had misalignment for a while, who've operated, let's call it under the old culture. I'm the dentist, everybody else, right? That this pressure just totally exploded, imploded that. And those who said, we're a team, this pressure just galvanized that and moved them forward. That's a lot what I saw with, you know, DEO, Dentist Entrepreneur Organization, at the ADSO level, and several others, is this really said, all right, are you a team, or have you not been acting like a team? And it felt like it sent ripple effects throughout the entire industry.
Yeah, and my hope is that we have DSO leaders bringing hygienists back into the fold clinically and saying, I want you back, and we're gonna elevate you, right? We're gonna invest in you, right? Professionally and personally, we're gonna have you become certified as a DSO Hygiene Excellence diplomat. We're gonna be co-producers in the office, co-leaders. You know, you're gonna be. I want you to run this hygiene department in alignment with these 5 pillars, and really give them that elevated place back. You know,
would it be fair to say, because I don't think it's like a DSO leader like myself as much as the clinical director especially saying that, right?
Sure. Hiring. Okay.
Yeah, it's that CDO, it's that clinical, it's the associates even at the practice level saying, hey, we're co-producers together. I loved your term around that.
Yeah, because you are, right? And you have with that comes some responsibility and definite value add for sure.
And I think if you give your hygienist ownership of their department and give them guidance on how to do that, they'll take it and they'll go. I mean, that's what Sarah and I've done in our department, and we enjoy it, but we also feel, you know, that we know our roles and responsibilities. And I think sometimes, and again, I think too, it's about mindset. Unfortunately, I think sometimes people are, you know, hygienists come in and it's a clock out, clock in mentality, mindset. And that's what we want to change. We want to change that mindset to, you know, be the free thinker that you are and be kind of that leadership.
Yeah, your highest and best use, right? Your highest and best level and capability and talents. All right, so if people want to be involved, if they're hearing this and they're like, finally, this organization, where do they want to start first?
They can contact us at DSOHygieneExcellence.com. We have a sign up area on there, and they can just sign up and ask us questions, and we'll get right back to them.
Awesome. And you guys have a Facebook site as well, right?
Yes, we have a Facebook community.
How do they join that?
It's a DSO Hygiene Excellence
Facebook page.
Facebook page, yeah. You just Google it search it on Facebook. But yeah, we're excited, you know, to speak to your last point. We did launch a survey nationally about a month ago, out to all the DSO leaders and hygienists. And we got back quite a few.
Yes, we got, I think, over 150 responses. And we did find that 58% of the DSO leaders said they didn't have consistency through their hygiene departments, which was really important to them. So we have learned a lot from taking the surveys, and 75% of DSO leaders said they would benefit from a system-based hygiene program. So we are listening to the needs.
That's awesome.
And that was kind of the clock in, clock out thing, because I feel like a lot of hygienists, they maybe lack the direction of understanding what they were accountable for. Like, what are you accountable for? Your DSO leader or your clinical director has some metrics that they are looking at, right, holding you to, but maybe you're not aware of what those are or how to move them. I think that survey said, well, actually 42% of DSO owners said that their hygiene departments were not accountable, like lacked accountability. But what have you put in front of them? You know, not that it should be about numbers and hitting numbers, but some of the business KPIs in our program and clinical excellence KPIs does give, you know, the DSO leaders that accountability, but also the hygienists some direction of what they're looking at. Well, how do we want the hygiene department to look like moving forward?
And how do we do the best patient care? I mean, if you're not at that level where you want to be, how do you get there? I mean, I think unfortunately a lot of times people think numbers are punitive, and they're just numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a growth experience, and we want people to grow
and supported.
Right.
The last part of that survey was the hygienists were interesting. 75% of the hygienists said they don't feel a sense of community within their DSO.
Wow.
Which kind of makes sense when there's not one, right?
Right. Well, here's what I love, that, and this is how you can tell you have leadership and that you want to be a leader, is I would say for every DSO leader out there, we need to step up and we need to include hygienists more in the conversation. For every clinical director, we need to step up and we need to be better leaders and include hygienists in the conversation. And what you guys are saying is, yeah, and for every hygienist, we need to step up and improve our capabilities and get included in the conversation, right? And not be a clock in, clock out. I think if everybody kind of lists where they stand, right, we take everything to the next level, which is excellent. The one thing we all know we can control is ourselves, all right? So if we improve our part of the circle of influence, then we can expand it from there. All right, is there anything else that we should know about DSO Hygiene for Excellence? Otherwise, you guys said you had some questions for me. I don't know what they are yet. You said you wanted to ask me some hard questions, and I'm totally up for it.
Okay. Well, we kind of were curious on how you saw the alignment between dentists and hygienists.
So first of all, it needs to happen, right? It needs to happen. Like, absolutely, there needs to be bigger conversations. And as I've talked to clinicians and hygienists, it's been one of these things where the hygienists at times get ambitious, but they're not empathetic to the business overwhelm that the clinician is feeling. And the clinician's not taking the time to say, can I walk you through what my P&L is, why I'm concerned about it? You know, let's be honest, oftentimes as team members, as employees, we take the revenue we're seeing, we subtract off of our cost, you know, and a little bit more, and we say, the rest of it must be coming home, right? Or must be going. So, you know, man, they're just rolling it. I think taking the time to understand some of the financial pressures and components really drives a lot of the alignment. From what I've heard from clinicians, they're so nervous that the hygienist is going to learn what's going on, just want to take more and more and more, both financially and maybe control-wise. And the hygienist is like, I just want to help and support. Why is there so much trauma and fear?
Right.
So I think you have to sit down and be really honest about those conversations.
Yeah.
What's your intention? What are you trying to do? Because I think a lot of times the reason a hygienist turns into a clock in, clock out is because we took somebody who was very independent, and instead of bringing them up to be interdependent, we made them like codependent because we kept pushing them down. So I think that there's a conversation to be had here, sitting across the table and say, I want you to be your best self. I want to be my best self. How do we get there? I also think there has to be abundance mindset, right? As clinicians, as business owners, we have to be thinking, you brought up the 35%. I'm really big on the fact that we only have 35% of people coming to the dentist. And if we could get to 70%, we double the entire industry. Right. Why in the world are we worried about who's doing what, et cetera, right? If they're doing a great job clinically, let's let them do it and let's move upstream, right? Clinicians need to be either opening new practices, figuring new patients that they want to serve, et cetera. If the hygienist can take care of it, let them. If you want somebody to be responsible, give them responsibility.
Yeah,
right?
That's great.
So,
yeah, that is
so
great.
I think there's been a scarcity mindset for too long, right? There's been this diminishing mindset too of like, I've got to sit on the ground. I can't come up and do anything great. I think the vision you guys have set is let dentistry move to another level within
Yes.
healthcare. Let's grow the amount of care and the amount of service that we're bringing. And there's room for everyone plus some. We're going to be, we're going to have patient need coming out of our ears, and we're going to need everybody to be helping. But this mindset that there's the pie that's only this big, and if you come and help me and do this clinical care, oh, then you're taking away from me. I think that that's old mindset that we have to move past.
Yeah.
So I think those are a couple things. Include them in the business model. I can tell you with our DSO and our support, we have open book financials. Every 2 months, we have a town hall, not just our hygienists, not just our dentists and associates. Everybody in the company knows exactly what's going on. We're all working from the same account, trying to have the same impact. And we're not taking those dollars, and this is true for every DSO I know, they're not taking those dollars home. They're taking those dollars, reinvesting them in more locations, more patient access. We have states where 90% of the counties have below average dentist to population ratios.
Sure.
Right? There's no way that state is getting the patient care that they need. So that's the kind of investment we need in this space. And anyway, that's probably bigger than the question you asked, but very excited about it. And I think we just have to think bigger and we get the alignment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, I would like to see us align, obviously, clinically and professionally, and even organizationally, on a national organizational level. Just to be honest, I feel like there's been too much not getting along, right? And I'd love to have dentists and hygienists under the same umbrella in a national organization, moving or collaborating, right? And working together, moving our profession forward. So that's,
I think hygienists, as an outsider who's come into this space, is standing in this magical place, and you guys kind of mentioned this at the beginning, where they have a clinical understanding and empathy that they know what excellence needs to look like. They also know what the patient understanding is and the layman terms, and that bridge is magical, right? And the clinician, the dentists have gone a little bit more upstream to get into the surgical procedures, et cetera, which is super helpful because those have to get done. But sometimes as we get focused on that, our capability in connecting with the patient and being a little bit more layman, we're going to lose that, right? We're the specialists as a dentist as you're moving upstream. And so hygienists are this brilliant bridge to not just the patient, but also to the staff, to be able to align with the patient and the customer. Listen, if you're a dentist and you have no patients, to me, it's like, what do you need to be a leader? You have to have followers. What do you need to be a dentist? You have to have patients. Right. Otherwise, instead of being a leader, you're a loner and you're a loser. And I think as a dentist, if you don't have patients, if you don't have that connection, then you're a highly trained individual that doesn't have anyone to work on, right? So I think hygienists play this really important role, and I love what you all are doing. All right. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate you being on the show. I love your involvement. If you want to talk to them more, obviously go to their Facebook page, but you can also come over onto DSO Secrets Facebook page. And until next time, keep smiling.